Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer for Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Addict new release roundup. I am back.
Yay!
Um, Not unlike herpes, you can't get rid of me.
Oh boy,
I
I'm
just
not sure
keep
if you want
coming.
that comparison.
I just keep coming back, baby. And
I want to say like it's no easy task to do this without you. So like you
aw.
can't go on any more vacations. I can't just
Okay.
be up here doing this by myself.
Duly noted. Man, I know I say this every week, but this is a really good week for movies. I'm so excited. And with that, I'm going to jump into my first title, which is the Batman: The Long Halloween Deluxe Edition. Now, this is kind of cool because previously they did a part one and two individually on Blu-ray. However, this is like combining the two parts, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. Here's the back, beautiful slipcover. I mean, the packaging on this is really lovely. And pop this bad boy open. So there will be a digital copy in yours. It's just not in mine right now. So yeah, I reviewed this both parts pretty extensively, but I'll just kind of go over it really quick. For people that are really big fans of Long Halloween, the it's a pretty seminal graphic novel, and in a way, like a lot of Batman fans actually consider it like one of the top tier Batman stories. So going into this, I was a little bit nervous because I wanted it to be really good. Thankfully, it is. Like this to me is sort of the gold standard for the DCAU. It's very faithful to the novel, the graphic novel, but there are a few changes, but they kind of streamline it for the screen, and I think they do a really fantastic job of sort of um, like as I said, streamlining things to make things a little bit more coherent, while still keeping a lot of the major story beats the same. And the other thing that I kind of noted in my initial review is I love how it sort of imitates the animation or the art style of the comic book while also sort of staying within the house style of the DCAU. So it's really nice, and I love how it definitely pays homage to its source material while still kind of staying in like a visual style that connects the other DCAU films. So yeah, as far as how it looks, I mean, it already looked pretty great on Blu-ray, but just the animation style really truly pops on 4K. Was not disappointed. And this also, I also don't want to forget to mention this also has a new documentary. So if you have volumes one and two, or parts one and two rather, you should definitely still pick this up. If not just for like the new content, but also it just looks fantastic. So super great, highly recommended. I loved it. I really enjoyed watching it initially. I enjoyed rewatching it for this. So yeah, if you're a Batman fan, this is sort of a must own in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to revisiting this one because I watched the two individual parts
Mm.
from last year. But I know a lot of fans have been like, they announced it before these were even released that a 4K was coming with both parts combined. And now it's finally here. So I'm interested to see how they flow together and just to see it in 4K. So I'm very excited to get to this one. I'm going to keep with animation, but going over to Japan with a nice new anime from Shout Factory, and that is The House of the Lost on the Cape, which is one I actually had never heard of. It's from 11 Arts Studios, which has put out a lot of great work. But I saw Shout Factory announce this one. and I was curious, so I decided to check it out. This one, it's pretty solid, I would say. It's not like top tier of anime. Uh, Here's a nice booklet you can with some sketches and stuff in it, which is pretty cool. But it's a sweet story and like an overall like kind of it's a nice time. So this kind of weaves in real life elements of like a an earthquake that kind of devastated portions of Japan in like the early 2010s. I think it was 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and building off of that, it's a story of like these. It starts off with like kind of these two girls who don't really know each other. One's like a 17-year-old girl who's running away from an abusive like situation at home, and another one is like a mute 8-year-old, I believe, who also is kind of fleeing from trauma. And this whole film is pretty much an examination and manifestation of like dealing with your trauma. And these two girls, they meet up and then eventually meet this older, like 70 or 80-year-old lady who pretends to be their grandmother, and like kind of it's almost akin to kind of like a Hansel and Gretel situation, but not as like, I say this because they kind of make kind of similar allusions, where there's like an old woman inviting these young children to like come back to her house, and like, but they do make jokes like, oh, maybe this woman is like going to kill us or whatever, but it's not, it doesn't go that dark.
Yeah.
It's really, you find out that this house is a place for people who are lost, basically, like emotionally and spiritually. And there are like actual ghost or yokai within the grounds of the house, and the house kind of provides you what you need. So there is that touch of like magical realism and fantasy, which is like really cool. So a lot of this is fairly like these characters working out like their trauma and going about their lives, and kind of like it's kind of like slow and methodical much of the time, but then there eventually becomes like an actual antagonist kind of where they are like kind of literally facing their trauma. I won't really go much more into it than that, but such as to say, this film, it has a lot of really nice like engaging themes and stuff that I really connected with on an emotional level of just like moving forward in your life and trying to handle your emotions, which I think a lot of us can kind of relate to. But there's a little bit like it kind of feels a little bit light, or just like not, it doesn't quite give you that substantial quality. You're like, ooh, this is amazing. You're just like, oh, this was like a sweet, nice time, like a lot of like slice of life moments that kind of like they go together well, but it's not like, it doesn't feel like a full meal. It's just like it's good, not great, but like I still recommend it. It's a really nice time, and it's like the beautiful animation style that I really appreciate. And this new Blu-ray from Shout Factory, it comes with like a 10-minute Q&A with the director at like an animation festival, and like a brief featurette on like some like recipes that are in the movie, which is a fun addition. So yeah, if you're interested, if you're like a hardcore anime fan and just like are interested in exploring like more under the radar ones, I think this is a good one to add. If you're like more of a beginner, you might want to like go for more like acclaimed or like critically received releases. But overall, this is a good film. It's just not like amazing. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. I know like I've been slowly dipping my toes in like Studio Ghibli stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I am like by no means an expert, but like I really love what I've been seeing. So yeah, that sounds like maybe not like the top tier, but still worth a watch.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's just keep this animation train rolling, shall we? I have Minions, The Rise of Gru, and well, first of all, again, really sweet packaging. Look at that. I don't know if you can, I'm trying to like, you can sort of like tell it's like embossed. And there's the back. and the inside. And again, this will have a digital code. So yeah, I was like very burnt out on like Minions. It was just like Minion overload, and like if I just had to kind of take a break. I really liked the first Despicable Me. I thought like before they were cramming like minions down our throats everywhere, like I really loved it. And the second one was like okay, and the third one's all right. I haven't seen the first Minions movie. I hear it's like kind of meh, but I have to say this is really a fun movie. I think this is actually kind of on par with I would even say like the first film. Um, so yeah, gosh, where to begin? The story's pretty fun. It doesn't really do anything kind of groundbreaking, but I found it really engaging and entertaining. There's some really fun nods and callbacks. Dr. Nefario being back is really awesome, like the young version of him. A little bit of foreshadowing of Gru and his moon heist and the anti-villain league are thrown in here for good measure. I love that. Yeah, it was fun. The animation is stunning and it really looks great in 4K. I think like a movie like this, if you're kind of on the like the fence on 4K, this is one of the movies that I think, you know, you should just get it for because it really looks fantastic. Like it's funny because prior to this, I rewatched the first three movies just to kind of like refresh myself a little bit. And you know, the animation's like pretty decent, but like you can really see like the step up of like just how much better it looks. And yeah, again, is it a great story that's groundbreaking and emotionally complex? No, it's a Minions movie. It's fun. It's stupid. And actually, I actually was kind of preparing myself for a lot of like fart jokes, but there actually wasn't a lot, which I kind of appreciated. And yeah, it does have like some pretty sweet moments, but it never goes into super like saccharine. Like that's what I liked about Despicable Me 1. Like it had that heart, which contrary to belief, I do like, but it's just I don't like when it kind of tips over into like this super sickeningly sweet sort of thing. So that's kind of like how that is here. Like I don't think it necessarily has like the sort of emotional punches like Despicable Me 1, but like I mean again, it's a Minions movie. I wasn't expecting anything like really like Pixar level. But yeah, fun, great time. I loved it. I was like really not sure if I was going to, but it was really cute. You've seen this, right?
Yeah, I reviewed it for this site. I similar to you, I didn't get like super burnt out on the Minion stuff, but that's because I
Mm.
wasn't really engaging with it. I never watched past the second movie like originally. So whenever this came through, I was like, okay, let me at least go back and watch the original Minions, which I'd heard mixed things about. And it was not great. It was fine, but it was just kind of like inconsequential. I think a lot because it was so much on the minions, there wasn't like a really great human counterbalance to it. And so I think they really improved with this sequel. Like having young Gru there and like a lot of the other tie-ins to the actual franchise really helped enhance my viewing for this. Like I thought this was much better than Minions. So
Yeah.
yes.
Well, just a quick question. Is there anything that I missed that they set up in Minions 1 that
The only thing that like really ties anything into anything is like at the very end of the first Minions is like Gru pops up for like 30 seconds and it's just kind of like, ooh, now they've met Gru and then you can see what happens, and so it just kind of continues on.
oh, okay. Yeah, so it doesn't sound like I missed anything. But
Nah.
um yeah, and now I correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that down the road they're gonna do like a maybe 4K pack of all of them. I don't know if that's anything like that's been announced yet.
I mean, it's possible. I'm pretty sure they've all been released individually on
Yeah.
4K, so it depends on if they want to like milk people for more money or not. If they did, I doubt there'd be like exclusive features or anything. It'd probably just be a repackage.
But yeah, just to say, it's awesome. Check it out. I guess apparently Minions 1 you can skip.
Yeah, unless you're like a Minions fanatic, like you're probably good. I'm gonna get us away from animation. I know. I'm so sorry, everyone. I love animation too. I'm going to the 90s, and this is from 88 Films. It is Drive on 4K, and no, not Ryan Gosling's Drive, the 1997 version with Mark DeCasco, and Kadeem Harrison and Brittany Murphy. So here you have this slip box here, so comes out the side instead of like up and down. So here's the cover underneath, back cover art. I don't think that there's there's reversible cover art. So yeah, you have a lot of different cover options. Here's the other side.
That looks very intense.
Yeah, it's like much more intense than I feel that this movie actually is. Even though like there are intense moments, but it's more lighthearted than that would at least lead you to believe. So okay, sorry, got that in. Got this, and I'm thinking this is it's a poster. So let me unfold that real quick. Get the full cover experience here.
Nice.
So I'm going to be completely honest. This was released by MBD Entertainment on Blu-ray like a year or two ago, and I saw that it was coming out, and at that time I took a look at it and I was like, I don't think I want to, like, it looked fine, but I was like, I'm not in that mood for that kind of cheesy like action movie. So I just kind of let it go, and I was like, I'm not going to cover that. So I saw 88 Films was putting out this 4K, and I was like, interesting. They feel this is good enough to warrant a 4K for some reason. Maybe I should check this out. And then I also didn't realize that Brittany Murphy was in it first, which I love her too. So I did check this out, and it was a lot better than I expected it to be. It was like I had my expectations kind of low, and then it really just exceeded everything. Have you seen this movie?
No.
Okay, it's actually pretty fun. So I'll just say Mark, the lead here, he plays kind of a super enhanced like spy, basically. Like he's like been injected with this technology that gives him. It's basically like he's like a minor superhero. He can like has intense strength and all that stuff. But he's like decided that he doesn't want to be like under the thumb of this organization that is controlling him. So it's kind of like trying to like he's on the run away from this organization to try to, I believe he's trying to sell the technology to someone. But along the way, he meets up with Kadeem Harrison's character, and they kind of go on the run together. It's kind of like almost like a buddy cop without the cops, like a buddy movie of them trying to evade these people who are trying to kill him. And along the way, it's kind of like a standard trope of like a buddy movie with like villains following them and like action ensues. What really sets this apart, in my opinion, is kind of the tone and like their camaraderie with one another. It has like, it's almost kind of like I know this is very one-to-one in comparison, but it's kind of like a Rush Hour dynamic where it's like you have like the straight man who's like occasionally funny, and then like the overtly funny side character who's just been drawn into this world. And there's a lot of really funny, witty exchanges. There's a lot of like dry humor that I appreciate. There is that cheesy like kind of like action movie like dialogue where like you'll have like a quip after someone is dispatched or something like that. But it's really fun, and I have to say the action is really well done as well. There, like some of the set pieces were like I thought this was going to be like kind of like a minor like I thought it was like a direct to video kind of cash in, but there's like some really well made, like well constructed action scenes, which impressed me a lot. So it's exceeded all expectations. It's not like a masterpiece, but if you're in the mood for that kind of like action movie, Drive is a lot of fun. And it looks really nice on 4K. So if you do, or if you are interested, I would like say go for the 88 Films 4K edition. It comes, it's the director's cut edition, which I've never seen this before. I don't know the differences. I'd still need to like explore when I write my review. But this is the director's cut edition, which is like 18 minutes longer. It's in Dolby Vision, but also they include the original version of it, which is like from a 2K scan. So you kind of have both versions to compare it to, even though I think the director's preferred version is the only one in 4K. You also have another upgrade from the NVD Blu-rays. This has like a Dolby Atmos audio track, which sounds really nice. It also has a 5.1 and a 2.0 soundtrack. So you get to choose like which, like if you want to be like an audio purist or if you want to utilize all your channels. You also have like a lot of different interviews and a making of documentary. So this is a really nice, well-rounded package, like in addition to like the fold-out poster and like this nice slipcover. So Drive has been given a really great release from 88 Films. If you're a fan, I think you will not be disappointed. And if you are on the fence like me, maybe just try it out if it seems like it might be interesting to you, because it, like I said, it was a lot better than I expected it to be.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. You know, we stand like cheesy action movies here, so um, that sounds like a must watch actually. So I don't know how to transition to my next title, so I'm just gonna dive right in. We have this seemingly back and forth of sexy, like provocative sort of titles. Apparently, we need to be covering more Swedish sex films.
Yeah, boost those numbers
But
up.
my next title is Murina from Kino, and I have to say, not a super provocative cover, but very kind of spicy. Uh, there's a caveat to that, which I will get to. But yeah, so this movie, something that I had never heard of, but it looked really interesting. Some of the pull quotes kind of grabbed my attention, and yeah, well, I first kind of want to say that they do this thing that I hate, like right off the bat, where like for art's sake, they like show what I'm presuming is like a real dead animal, which is an eel. Which again, okay, eel, not necessarily like a pet or whatever, but I don't know. Like the older I get, just the more like I can't handle that stuff. Like it just kind of grosses me out. Uh, and that's like in the first like couple seconds of the movie. Like the setup is like they're eel hunters or whatever. I didn't even know that was a thing, but apparently it is. So anyways, the rest of the movie is sort of like a low-key like thriller sort of coming of age film. Um where there's a daughter of a fisherman who likes to dive, and she kind of falls in love with her father's much older rich friend, and I believe she's supposed to be like 16 or 17, so it's kind of gross. I mean, the actress I believe is like at least 18, and so that's at least something. But I think in the movie she's supposed to be a little younger, so it's always kind of gross. But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, it is a very kind of sexy, sun-drenched, very slow burn of a film. I wanted to mention that also right away because this isn't like it's not to suggest it's not really entertaining or engaging. It's just you really have to be patient and let it just kind of unfold. And I do think that there's enough going on that I was never really bored, and I was always kind of wanted a little bit more to see like where it goes. Because there's always this really weird tension, right? Um, as soon as like the dad's like rich friend enters the picture, there's like this really weird like dynamic because like the mom apparently had dated this guy once before, and the mom can very overtly tell that the daughter's kind of flirting with him. At one point in the movie, she even is like, don't flirt with, like, don't make it so obvious that you're flirting with him, and like shuts that shit down like quick. And it
Yeah.
just gives, but it, you know, it's in service of like building and maintaining this really off kilter kind of weird vibe that I think it does really well. um it does, I think, pay off really nicely. I don't want to like spoil it, but it is a really interesting movie. The photography is beautiful. Yeah, it's really it's really something. I've never seen any other films from this filmmaker, but it kind of makes me want to check out more. This is executively produced by Martin Scorsese, so you know what that means. It's real cinema. It's
That's
not
true.
that it's not that fake ass cinema that's Marvel. It's actually real cinema.
Cinema.
It's worthy of being called a movie. I won't go off on my old man rant about Scorsese gatekeeping, but anyways, this is a great movie. I liked it. It is a little tropey if I was like pressed to say some negative stuff about it. It does hit a lot of like coming of age sort of things, but yeah, it's good. I really liked it.
Awesome. I look forward to checking it out. It was only on my radar because Kino Lorber had released it theatrically and I guess now on
Yeah.
Blu-ray. So I check out pretty much anything that they put out. So I'm interested to check that one out.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you think of it.
Yeah, I'll get back to you. I got you. I'm moving on, going into the world of documentaries, and this is from Wild Eye Releasing, and this is The Acid King, which came out within the last couple of years, I believe. Yeah, 2019, it says on the back. So you have that removable slipcover, and this is underneath. And the interior here. So yeah, they did a really nice job with the packaging, really nice slipcover. So this film, it it deals with this like infamous murder that happened in Long Island, I believe, in 1984, and it deals kind of with kind of like satanic panic and just kind of that whole movement. Basically, this explores the real life story behind the Acid King, where like a young man and a couple other guys took one of his friends out into the woods and murdered him, and said that basically it was part of like a satanic. Let me rewind that. The media reported it that the young man had said it was part of a satanic sacrifice. So that's kind of what the film deals with, is kind of the realities behind what happened with this horrible murder, and trying and getting some background from a lot of the people who were around at that time, were friends with some of these people, and then also how the media covered it and how it kind of blew certain aspects out of proportion for kind of sensationalist reasons, and like drumming up satanic panic and all that type of stuff, when in realities it was basically just like drug related. But this this documentary, I am very easy on documentary. I know I have that bias. I'm just usually like, if it's an interesting subject, I'm usually pretty forgiving, even if it's like not the most expertly made documentary. I'm usually just like, ooh, that interested me, that was good, and like kind of can forgive some of the filmmaking drawbacks. This film, it has such potential to be interesting, but they seemingly take the most boring route to get to it. And it pains me to say that, because This film is like 100 or an hour and 56 minutes long, and it is so padded, like beyond belief. Like they keep going over different points several times, and they go off on certain detours within this narrative, like that really you do not need within this. Like this could have easily been like an hour and a half, hour 20 minutes maybe. Like they really could have cut this down immensely. Like there are like segments of the film where I'm just like, what is this adding to it? Like some of the subjects that they're talking about, they start talking about their own lives in a way that never ties directly back to this case. Like you're just like, okay, so we're just like getting to know this person, but I don't really care about this person. Why are we learning about him? That type of thing. Many of the subjects are very interesting and like give like some good insights. Those are the times the movies where the movie really works. Like I was there, I was taken out into the woods, I saw this dead body, I am traumatized because of that. That's very fascinating. What doesn't really fascinate me is getting a subject interview subject who is brought in who says who's apparently like an expert who is like younger than I am, so like they weren't even born at the time, and they're like, oh, I've read a bunch of stuff about this, and this is what kind of I understand about the case. And I'm like, I can also read like a Wikipedia article about this and kind of get the same level of insight you just gave me. So, and it's like, I don't know, I'm getting riled up just thinking about this, but like, there are just so many subjects in here who are just like not directly related to it. They've heard about the case, they've like read about the case over the years, and I'm like, I don't need that. I need people who are directly involved with the case, and you could have cut all that other stuff out. But there are some interesting things in here, but this could have been told in such a much more concise, interesting way, because I was checking my watch like near the end. I'm like, okay, we know what happened. Why are we still going with this? Like we still have another like 25 minutes left. So yeah, this film, it's taxing, but there's a core of a good idea. They just did not execute it well. This has a commentary track with the filmmakers. This has a behind the scenes featurette. And this has some deleted scenes and some unused interviews. If you're a fan of the film, it's a really good package. I just think this is one of like the rare times where the filmmaking of a documentary just really bothered me. It was just a slog, honestly.
It nearly broke you, it sounds like.
Yeah, I started out being like, this has some problems, and then as I talked about it, it just like conjured something in me. I'm like, why did they do this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm right there with you. I love a good documentary, but just get to the point. Like I watched one that I thought was, it had potential to be really good, but again, it's kind of like that problem there. It was just very bogged down and not told in, like, as you say, like a concise, clear way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a shame. Talking about films that nearly broke us. This one kind of almost broke my spirit a little bit. A little bit. So that is Where the Crawdads Sing. And it's kind of wild because this movie made like a lot of money, and it's sort of like split on like reviews, I guess, sort of.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wild because I did get to talk to the main actor, Taylor John Smith, in this, and he was super nice. First of all, like, before I really dive into this, let's just take a look at this. This does have some nice features, which I know we both always really appreciate. There is the inside. This does have a digital code, but not in there right now. Yeah, so I confess I've never read the book. So I don't really have a lot. I did do a little research on like how it was maybe similar and different. But yeah, it's just very much like, if you've ever seen like any sort of like overwrought Southern Gothic Tennessee Williamsy sort of situation. This
Mm.
almost plays like a parody of that because it hits those tropes so hard, um, that it's almost, again, it almost borderlines on like a parody of the actual thing. And there are some moments that are unfortunately kind of like they're not funny, but like the dialogue is so weird and like just at times alien that it's kind of hard not to laugh.
Yeah.
So this almost has like a so bad it's enjoyable quality. I say almost because it is a bit of a slog. I don't want to like completely bash this movie because there are some really nice elements to it. The acting is great. I think the actors do a really fantastic job, especially with some of this dialogue that they have to kind of wrestle with. This is shot in New Orleans and it looks gorgeous. I mean, they really sort of capture that sort of like, again, Southern Gothic sort of very like pulpy like mood. But yeah, it's just the story just never really gelled with me. I found it very hard to really engage. And this sort of like weird dialogue and clunky, aimless plot just kind of, like I said, nearly broke my spirit. But again, there are a lot of aspects of it I really like. It just didn't necessarily connect with me. But if you are a fan, and this apparently does have a pretty good cult following, and it was I did not realize this till now, but Reese Witherspoon produced this, so
Yeah.
take that for what you will. But yeah, if you are a fan, like I said, they didn't just dump this out. They did have some nice new features. It looks really great. The first time I saw it was like a screener, so seeing it like on Blu-ray was really fantastic, especially as I say how visually sumptuous it is. So yeah, check it out. It didn't work for me, but you might like it. So
Yeah. I think I'm gonna watch it this weekend, so I'll have to report back and let you know what I think
all
of
right.
it. Let's pull us out of this like pit of despair that we've found ourselves in. um, I am going to talk about the Scorpion releasing Rollerball,
Mm.
which is a movie that I've been wanting to see for years now. And this they released this first a couple of years ago, and they're re-releasing that release now. And so, for those who don't know, Rollerball, um, it stars James Caan, rest in peace, and uh, it's kind of set in the. Uh, I was going to make a joke, but it's set in the future of 2018. So we'll see how that panned out. Where it's kind of like set up where, of course, corporations are like evil corporations are like controlling everything. And the form of entertainment that kind of keeps the masses at bay is kind of almost like an updated version of like a gladiator pit where like it's the sport of rollerball, which is basically like roller derby mixed with like hockey and boxing. It's just like a weird violent game, which like everyone watches and they like crave that bloodlust in their like sports where things are just constantly heightened and everything. And James Caan is this player. He's like a star player, but he's like on the verge of retirement, or at least that's what he's told by his corporate handlers. But he's kind of like too smart for his own good. He's like the type of guy who's questioning why things are where they are and questioning the status quo. He knows like he once had like a wife who was taken away from him that he still like inquires about, but he's still like fairly docile at the beginning, but he's just kind of like, why do we do these things? Why do we just kind of like blindly follow this thing where we are competing for everyone else to like keep society in check, basically? And it kind of is like it's that slow deterioration of like him realizing what kind of messed up situation he is in, and like tearing down the corporate overlords, like from the inside, basically. Uh, it's a really interesting movie. It's like it has a lot of really thrilling scenes of the titular sport of rollerball. It has some really great acting from James Caan. And what I did not know until the end of this movie, when I saw the credit flash, this is directed by Norman Jewison, who did like In the Heat of the Night and a lot of other like great movies, like Fiddler on the Roof, I'm pretty sure. So like it's pretty wild that like he would make those movies and then make like this movie. Like, but he's like a jack of all trades. Apparently, he's a really talented director, and he really handles this with a lot of like grace and nuance. And I really think it was really great. This was also like remade in the early 2000s, which is when I first heard about the concept. But by all accounts, everyone hates that movie, and you should just avoid it and stick with this original release. So this release from Scorpion Releasing, it comes with from a 4K scan, and it also comes with 2 commentary tracks that have been ported over from the Twilight Time release, one with director Norman Jewison, and one with writer William Harrison. And it also has like a brief featurette and like an interview with James Caan and like an interview, I think, with like maybe the composer. So there's a couple different interviews and like 2 audio commentary tracks and a nice 4K scan. So if you're a fan of the film and you haven't picked it up on Blu-ray yet, this is a really nice Blu-ray. I will, like, full disclosure, they probably wouldn't want me mentioning this, but there is a 4K version coming out from Shout Factory in a couple months, so that is on the horizon. But for if you're Blu-ray just Blu-ray capable, or just like you're wanting something that'll probably be slightly cheaper than that, Scorpion Releasing, they have you covered, and it's a really solid release.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen that, but it sounds almost like, Running Man, or what came to mind actually right away was like Death Race 2000, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds really awesome. And so I'm doing 2 releases, and I'm gonna go through them fairly quickly because they're very famous movies that we've all probably seen 100,000 times. But I was so excited when they announced the 4Ks of this. And that is The Lost Boys on 4K and Poltergeist. Also, got a warning there, so be careful. It's too scary and could cause actual seizures. So let's just dive right into The Lost Boys. And so like first let's just take a look at I know a lot of people weren't really digging these covers, and I think they're fine.
They just want to differentiate them between the old releases. They want people to know these are new.
Yeah, and again, I mean, like they sit on my shelf, and I don't really like I just see them like this, so it's fine.
Yeah.
you know. So here's the inside. Now I will say, now you can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Blu-rays are also from a new transfer.
I am not sure about that. I haven't checked to see.
I think at least one of them, the Blu-rays, is also updated. So Lost Boys, yeah, it's great. Joel Schumacher, I know we all like to make fun of him for his Batman movies, which also I love. So cut that out right now.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know that like he like came up working for like was it the famous fashion designer, and I can't think of right now.
Yeah.
They made a biopic, right? Anyways, like, so he had some legit creds even before he got into movies. And then like I mentioned how he used to work in the visual arts, because this movie is just very, like, this is such an 80s movie. Like, it is really it's interesting because I read a review, like a retrospective review, where they were calling it more like a mood piece, that it's like yeah, its narrative is sort of maybe a little bit by the numbers, but like it really is just about that sort of like time and place and capturing what it was like to be like an 80s youth in like a coastal town. So I think it's great. I mean, the cast is great. Again, if we're talking about vampire movies from 1987, I'm going to go with Catherine Bigelow's Near Dark. But I do love this movie a lot. Like it definitely is like the funner, lighter, EC comic version, like alternative to Near Dark, I guess.
Mhm.
So I've seen this many times, and this is the best it's ever looked. It's incredibly sharp, detailed. I like how, with a lot of like Warner Brothers older titles, like it's not grain heavy. Everything just has a really nice sharp sheen to it. And again, like when you're talking about a movie that's like this visually like stunning, you really want it to look amazing. So this really has you covered. Again, I've seen it in almost all formats, and this is by far the best. So Poltergeist. So first of all, make sure you don't be careful. So here's the back. Get this thing naked.
Ooh.
Oh, and this also just has another little warning in there. So these both have digital copies. They are not in there right now. So there you go. It's the inside. Yeah, so first of all, I will not hear any of this BS that Toby Hooper didn't direct this.
Okay.
So I'm going to shut that down right away. Like, if anybody that's kind of a Toby Hooper fan will like see his style in this. I mean, of course, when you have something like that's produced by Spielberg, like his creative hand is going to be in it. Yes. I mean, when you're somebody like Spielberg or like J.J. Abrams or something, like you're going to want to put your mark on it. But everybody in the cast, including Spielberg himself, has said yes. Toby Hooper 100% directed this. But anyways, that's done. Um, so as far as like horror movies go, Poltergeist really should be studied. In a way, it constructs a lean, effective film. Its scares are iconic for a reason, and this movie is really rightly hailed as a classic in the genre. Like Toby Hooper kind of adds his signature sardonic wit and horror, and Steven Spielberg adds the balance of like childhood wonder and terror. So it's really a beautiful kind of like amalgamation of those two like geniuses. And also this has just been a really good year for like Toby Hooper fans. We've got Poltergeist, we had on 4K, we had Life Force in 4K, The Funhouse in 4K, not in 4K, but it's a Toby Hooper deep cut. The dress one. I'm
Yes.
Dangerous
I'm
Tonight.
Dangerous Night. Yes.
So yeah, it's a good time to be a fan of his films. And if y'all haven't seen Life Force and The Funhouse, I mean, just blind by them. Just do it now. Anyways, yeah, and again, this is a movie that I've seen a ton of times, and again, probably the best it's ever looked, in my opinion. The colors really pop here, and again, they're not like the grain's not very heavy, it's not oversaturated, and there really is a nice like warmth to the overall picture. Um, and it's funny because like there's a lot of like detail in like costumes and like sets that I never really noticed like that sharply until this release. So it's pretty awesome. So the other thing that's kind of weird, and it's so funny because like I've seen this movie multiple times, but there's this like really jarring cut. Like it's like not a very good transition like edit. And at first I thought maybe my disc was messed up, but that actually is kind of how the film is. Like they had to cut something out that um said something disparaging about Pizza Hut, so they had to quick cut it out to, and it's not a clean cut either. It's just it's like almost mid sentence
Oh wow.
to the next scene. But I just wanted to mention that because like that's actually how it is. Like I completely forgot how like jarring that cut is. But anyways, that's not your disc. That's just the movie. But yeah, gosh, terrific movies. Warner Brothers like crushing it. I mean, if I had to just like complain a little bit, I it would have been nice to have something like new. Um, as far as features go. But if you want this looking the best, yeah, like this is the way to go. And I believe on Amazon they're about 20-ish dollars. It's not very expensive. And no one's paying me to say this, but I think it's worth definitely worth what it's going for on Amazon right now.
Absolutely. I'm going to say something that'll probably make you flip out, but I have never seen Poltergeist before.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's such a treat. It's how much of it do you know? Like probably the pretty famous parts.
Yeah, I know the little girl with the television set, and that there is a finale in a swimming pool that's like been like half emptied. I think that's all I know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's not. Yeah, I mean, there's still some pretty good surprises and stuff. Yeah, I think you'll like it. It's one of those movies. Again, it's just like it it's so efficient in how it does its setups and payoffs and foreshadowing, and it just works like a Swiss watch. It's just great stuff.
Yeah, at least I haven't. I also haven't seen the remake of it, so like at least I don't have that tainting
Yeah, I
my experience.
unfortunately did, and it wasn't good.
Moving on, I have a release. It's very like very indie, so indie that this is a burn disc, but like I want to show it off anyway. This is from Bayview Entertainment, and that is the Enormity of Life. So this is a very indie movie that has come out uh, recently, and it stars Breckin Meyer and Emily Kinney from The Walking Dead fame, and Giselle Eisenberg, who I knew from this CBS sitcom called Life in Pieces, which I really appreciated. So the three of them. And one thing I will note, apparently this was known under a different title for like a little while, because in the special features they were referring to this movie as a different title, and I'm just like, oh, that's not the name of the movie that they're saying. So it's amusing to have like a featurette where they're talking about the movie as a different title, which is it's a 10-minute making of, which is pretty solid. Like for a burn disc, I don't really expect any special features, so the fact they had a small featurette, it's pretty cool. So this movie, it's very slight. It's okay. It's kind of like you mentioned, kind of like this sweetly like saccharine type movies that you don't completely gel with. I think that this might fall under that kind of a distinction, even though it's very like kind of dark in places, because it's about kind of like it's once again about trauma and like mental illness and like dealing with life. So at the beginning of the movie, Breckin Meyer, he plays a character who he suffers from this like illness where he cannot find this form of mental illness where he cannot find joy in like stuff that would bring normal people joy. So he's just kind of lived most of his life not finding joy in most things. And this is a trigger warning for suicide. So like, take that in consideration for the next couple minutes, everyone. If you're sensitive to such subjects, it begins with him like attempting suicide, and as he is attempting it, he gets like a phone call, like a phone message that this aunt that he never really knew has died, and he ends up like not being able to go through with it. But he like goes to like follow up on this message, and he's learned that he is come into an inheritance that is pretty substantial, which he's kind of like doesn't know what to do with because he doesn't really find joy in most things. But then he goes to a diner and he meets this woman right here, played by Emily Kinney, and her precocious daughter, who is not at the diner, but like he'll meet later. And he kind of starts forming a relationship with her, and this movie is kind of about that. And the woman's daughter, she is also kind of suffering from like an obsessive compulsive disorder of like being very concerned about school shootings, and just like she is constantly worried that she's going to be in a school shooting. So this movie has some very dark elements within it of just people suffering from different forms of mental illness. I guess that's all as far as plot that I want to expand upon. I will just say there are some very touching moments within this, but there are also some very unbelievable moments. Like certain plot developments happen very quickly over like a few days, which you're like, oh, okay, this seems kind of very manufactured and sped up for a movie. So it doesn't seem supernatural, even though it might work, like it might get you emotionally, but if you stop to think about it, you're like, oh, that didn't really make sense for it to happen like this, that like necessarily. Um, and the performances are pretty strong, but it's just like the script itself is very, very written. I'll just say that it's like very like you are watching a person's writing instead of people acting as they probably would normally. Um, Overall, it's like a mixed bag for me. It's like moments that I did like enjoy on like a very basic level, but I know it's not like a great movie. So it's just like if you're in like the type of mood for kind of like a forgettable drama that's like kind of heightened, but like okay, like you can check this out. If not, if you're never in that mood, just pass this by. um, it's like the most indie of indie movies. I had never heard of this label before, but whenever a publicist friend of mine recommended this, I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And like overall, like I didn't hate it. It just isn't a modern classic by any means. And the fact that they did give this a Blu-ray, even if it's burned, it looks really nice. Like for a modern movie, looks really nice, sounds good, and you get that one supplemental feature. So I can't complain, but it's just not the movie itself isn't like amazing.
Yeah. Two things. So one, when you said like burnt disc, I was almost thinking it was like one of those like DVR, like DVD-R, like actual just like written on the.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Two, when you said like somebody that can't find joy in anything, I was like, are you just talking about writers?
Ooh,
Film
roasting
critics.
artist.
um no, it sounds I mean, the way you described it, it's probably something I would not necessarily seek out, but might be somebody's cup of tea if they're in that mood.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need some Star Trek redemption. Okay.
Okay.
Like I feel like the last one, I it sucked because I love this franchise and I hate talking like shit on it. So we got Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. And this also, as noted, includes the theatrical and the director's cut. So let's take a look at this. Here's the back. Again, we'll have digital code, just not in there. Yeah, so this is a really fun revisit. And I had to say I like how like 5 wasn't very good, but like 6 sort of ends on a high note. It's kind of interesting because the old joke is like every odd number of Star Trek films are shit.
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of true. So again, this is a true return to form for the Star Trek film franchise, and this is also pretty poignant because it's the last time the entire original cast did a feature-length film together. I say I have to qualify that because I know there's probably Star Trek nerds that will like come at me and be like, oh, they actually all appeared, oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, like, feature film wise, I believe this is their last hurrah together. So this movie doesn't go isn't very subtle about its message. And the message is of like racism and othering people. In fact, it's not really subtext as much as it is just plain text. But I kind of let that pass because I think it is really an important one to talk about. And it also really aligns well with the sensibilities of the 60s series, which certainly was not afraid to tackle things like race. So I did like that aspect. It really did feel, again, like it harkened back to the original series. It's also really interesting to see Kim Cattrall as a Vulcan in this. And I can't think of his name, but the guy who played Red in that 70s show and was in RoboCop,
Yeah, Kurtwood
play,
Smith, I believe.
yeah, is a Klingon, and it's so distracting because you can, like, he's got such a distinct voice that you're like, it's just, he's going to call someone a dumbass any moment now.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun. I like him. So yeah, this is a really, again, it's not without its flaws. But I think overall it's a really fun entry into the series. There's a lot of great action. Um, there is a lot of fun, like, philosophical stuff. There's a really great scene where they talk about like Shakespeare, and then quote Shakespeare in Klingon, which is pretty funny. But yeah, it's an enjoyable movie. And again, like, I like how I can actually like end the Star Trek movies on like a really high note, because it's definitely a series that is uneven, but the highs are incredibly high. Like Rathacon is like, I think that movie can kind of stand on its own even outside of the series. So yeah, it's great, looks great. So I will say the grain is a little is pretty consistent, but is a bit heavy at times. There are like darker scenes where there's a little bit of like light dark fluctuations that aren't like super distracting, but if you are like a big like visual file and like want to like know the nitty gritty, just know that it's not perfect, but I think overall it really did look nice. This has really nice warm colors, and the colors overall really do pop. They're not, this like, at least this Star Trek movie isn't that visually like stunning looking as far as like really over the top bright colors, but the pops of colors you do get do look nice. So yeah, overall it's a fun series. And it's great that I can just end it on a high note. So check it out.
Yay, you finally got through yay. So moving on to a more modern movie, but interestingly involves space a little bit. So okay, this movie from NBD Entertainment and Film Rise is The Time Capsule, and this movie is something. I'll just say that. So yeah, here's the interior. So the problems with this movie are inherent to just like the actual plot of the movie. This film is about a politician who's just like he is like running, like trying to run for office. He's making a bid for mayor, governor, something, some political office. Uh, um, this is set in kind of like the near future, so everything seems kind of the same as it does now, but there have been like advances in space travel that like are far exceed our own technology. So what this tale actually is whenever this politician, who is now like an older gentleman, probably in his early 40s, I would say, whenever he was younger, he had this girlfriend this girl right here, played by Brianna Hildebrand, who was in the Deadpool movies. She had to like go off on this mission with her father to like it's like kind of a normal thing. She had to go off on a space mission with her father to like go to this other planet, and they never expected her to like return. So she was like kind of in like it's kind of like a one-way trip out. So they were in love. They were young teenagers in love. She went off on this space mission. They're heartbroken and they're not going to get to see each other again. But they had to return to Earth unexpectedly. So this girl, she has been like basically like cryogenically frozen this whole time. So she is like the same teenage version of herself that left. Like for her, she's only been gone for like a couple months in her mind. She returns to Earth and like goes back to her hometown, which just so happens the politician and his now wife is now visiting their old cabin that they're planning to sell. This is very convoluted. I'm so sorry. But the basics is like this man who's like now in his 40s reconnects with his old girlfriend who is still like freshly turned 18. And like he's kind of like a little bit like at like discontent with his life. Like he doesn't really know what he wants to do. His wife is really pressuring him to like really put all into like everything into this political bid. But he just kind of he's not sure he wants that life. He's kind of like nostalgic for how things used to be. And then when he learns that his like old girlfriend is returned that he never expected to return, it kind of really messes with his mind. And there's like kind of like it's just a very creepy thing of just like this older gentleman getting to relive his youth with this like young 18-year-old, which feels like the product of like a screenwriter being like, yes, yes, yes. And then he gets to be with this young 18-year-old and it's cool. That's what it feels like watching this movie, just like seeing them kind of like have their like, ooh, there's some of that old spark left over. You're like, ugh, this is weird. This is so weird. So if that premise does not creep you out, you might have a chance of enjoying this movie. If you think that the idea of like a dude in his 40s starting to lust after his old girlfriend who's remained exactly the same, preserved by time, and like if theoretically if they were together, he would just get to like go off scot-free with this 18-year-old. Like it's like every man's fantasy, like, ooh, my girlfriend, she's eternally young. Like I know she wouldn't be she would start normally aging at that time, but like whatever. This movie is just very yeah. There are moments that are intriguing where they deal with the concept, but then there are just other moments where they just completely give in to like the more icky factors that you just it's not good. So this movie's a pass for me, but like if the premise sounds like, ooh, that's romantic, then go for it. But it didn't do it for me. There's some deleted scenes here. It looks good, it sounds good, but like as a movie, it's just I can't confirm off the top of my head if this was written by a man, but it feels like it was written by a man.
Probably a safe bet. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I was trying to think of what that trope is. It's like the Born Yesterday trope where like they're kind of like they're young, but when I say young, I think like 18 at least. But they are like very childlike. Maybe I guess this isn't really like that, but there is kind of like a trope where they're like very childlike, but they're like 18 and it's kind of creepy. It's
You're like, ooh, it's legal. You're like, just because you're skirting by legality doesn't mean it's right.
But yeah, it sounds like something. So yeah, so my next one is one that I was actually really, really excited about. And that is Laz Berman's Elvis. And look at that cover. Look at Warner Brothers showing off. That is some good stuff. So we got features. I actually think it would have been cool if like the slipcover was just like his jacket.
Oh yeah.
And you. I mean, Warner Brothers marketing, call me. We can, talk about it, whatever.
Mike wants you to take off his jacket, so
Austin Butler.
one could
So,
do worse.
there's the inside, and so again, digital copy not in there. Came with this little thing. Yeah, this movie did not have to go as hard as it did, and I'm really grateful that it did. You know, being a Laz Berman film, like you kind of expect that it's going to be this pretty big bombastic spectacle, and it definitely is that. My big problem with this is while it does kind of mix up the formula a little bit, it really never stays too far from like the music biopic formula, which was like parodied so amazingly by Walk Hard. Do you remember that movie, The Dewey Cox
Yes, I love
Story?
it. Yeah.
Me too.
I need more blankets and less blankets at the same time.
Yeah, and it's funny because like the Honest trailers actually kind of did like a little bit of like a mashup of scenes from that and that. So yeah, but I will say like there are great things that do keep it really engaging. Again, Austin Butler is really amazing as Elvis, and I think I don't know if there is a lot of Oscar buzz for him, but holy shit, there should be like at least nominated, if not winning. Like he was so good in that, and um, I mean, he just really like makes it easy to just sort of lose him in that performance. So I liked it. Tom Hanks doing was it like Austrian accent or something?
Yeah, I believe so. Colonel
Was
Tom.
something. Um Listen, I like every red-blooded American loves Tom Hanks,
Mhm.
but yeah, I thought it was like some interesting choices, I'll just say. He's like I don't think he's bad. I think it's just sometimes it's a little distracting.
Yeah, it's a
But
bold performance.
yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a fun movie. The music is great. I mean, this again, it's what you expect from a music bio. It just has that razzle dazzle and great performances that I think helps it keep me engaged despite it being just very tropey.
Absolutely, yeah. I have
Um,
kind of the same issues with it. I wanted Boz to like really like go even further with it. I wanted more weirdness and like like kind of like blending of different like music like even more than it did. But like it was okay, but like at the end of the day, it's still a musical biopic that hits
yeah,
the beats.
yeah. That's the one thing that was kind of disappointing because I think if anybody could just sort of shake up that formula, it would definitely be Laz Berman. So, but again, I was not bored. I was thoroughly entertained. I thought it was good. It's very serviceable. I mean, again, they do skip a lot of like highlights of Elvis's career, but I mean, it's already like probably 2 hours ish long. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But really good. I liked it. It looks fantastic. I first actually streamed this on HBO Max because I was like so excited I couldn't wait, and then I got the 4K. And of course, like the 4K is the way to go. You don't have a lot of that compression issues that we talk about. Like the colors do really, I mean, this is such a like talk about the opposite of this of Star Trek 6. I mean, like the colors are just so like vibrant and alive that like you need to see this in 4K.
Absolutely. Yeah. Completely agree. My final title, I've had a couple back-to-back titles where I was just like, but I wanted to finish this off with something that I was more positive on. I had a lot of fun with this because it's just wild. This is Massacre at Central
Mm.
High from Synapse Films, which Synapse, they always do a really nice job. And I had never heard of this. And this was a fun discovery. So you got this here. Let me see. Does it have reversible? Nope, no reversible cover art. It comes with the just like the Synapse guide. So that's not really like a selling point, but you get to check out all their films that they have. But so yeah, this film. Have you seen this film?
I have not.
Okay, it's really wild. Like I thought it was one thing going in, but then it turns into kind of a different thing. Not like wholly, and I won't spoil it for you, but I will just say it starts out with there is it's like a typical high school where there's kind of like the different cliques, and there's like a trio or like four dudes who kind of run things around the city and kind of like strikes fear in the rest of the student body of just like bullying them and like terrorizing them if they like act weird or do whatever. They're just typical bullies. Until one day, one of the bullies who's like kind of like lesser, he's like one of the better ones who's kind of morally conflicted. One of his friends who he has a shared past with, who like from like years ago, comes to the school, and that new friend really starts to shake things up by like not really going with the bullying and kind of standing up to some of these bullies. And this manifests eventually in like violent ways where some of these bullies start getting like mysteriously picked off in like creative ways, which is a lot of fun. But that's not the entire movie. What this really is about is like how like power corrupts, and like even when the threat is removed from an ecosystem, one will like come and fill its place. Like it's just kind of like if there is a chance for like someone to like take control of a situation, that will happen. So like the meek rising up and like becoming what they despise, and how that needs to resolve itself. That's kind of all I'll say about that. So this is a really, it's a cheesy movie in the fact that like there are a lot of kills that are just like way over the top. Like I won't spoil any of the kills, but I'm just saying like there are kills involving large boulders. There are films or kills involving hang gliding and just like various explosions. It's the most insane thing. And I'm just like, this movie is insane. I love it. Like just the creativity, like they just don't go for like a simple like, oh, I cut your brakes and now you're gonna go like crash into a ditch. They like go for it of just like if they're going to kill someone, they really get like creative with it.
Nice.
But like yes, there are the typical, I think this was made in the 70s, if I'm not, yeah, 76. There's like an air of cheesiness to it, that some of the acting is kind of like not the best. A lot of it's really good, but like some of it's not the best. There are like random scenes of like just like complete nudity of just like people frolicking and like like in the waves, on like crashing waves on a beach. But at least they do mostly give like equal viewing to both, so it's like both male and female nudity. And then also there's just other just like random just like oddball nudity that I'm just like, all right, cool. But the mixture of like the cheesiness with the like the cool, like the amusing kills, and like just the social commentary just worked really well for me. I found this to be a very entertaining movie, much better than I expected to be. So like, if my description appeals to you, Massacre at Central High is a really fun time. It has been restored by Synapse, and it looks really nice for like a film from the '70s that hasn't been given a lot of love over the years. There's still like some like small nicks and scratches in certain places, but it looks really nice. It does come with some various audio interviews, like with like a lot of the main cast members. It comes with a new making of featurette, which is really nice. And yeah, it's just a really nice, well-rounded release from Synapse for a film that's just bonkers, and I love it. So like, Massacre at Central High, I think you especially would have a lot of fun with this. I recommend it to you and anyone who's that sounds interesting too.
Yeah, and I did look it up just to double check, but if you are a big fan of this film, they do have a steelbook edition
Oh, cool.
that actually is pretty reasonably priced. I mean, it's going to be more than the standard edition, but again, if you kind of want that like extra like steelbook goodness, they have that as well. So
There you go. Yeah.
yeah, and I will link that where you can get that alongside where you can get the standard edition. So you have that option.
Awesome.
So yeah, gosh, we covered a wide range of really great movies, some that broke our spirit a little bit, but we got through it together, and that's all that matters. So as always, I'm gonna do my obligatory give us a like, comment, subscribe. That all helps us out. Even though we're not talking about anything super scandalous this week, please help give us some more attention. So like, I mean, maybe I should just strip. I mean, I know I keep threatening that, but like if it gets us views, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not. But anyways, as always, thanks for hanging out with us.